Number 1. On December 28, 1956, Barbara and Patricia Grimes went to the cinema to watch the Elvis movie, Love Me Tender. The girls only had $2.15 between them, and it's not known how they travelled to the cinema. As they watched the movie, behind them was their best friend, Dorothy Reinhardt, who was also with her younger sister during the movie. They all stayed to watch a second movie, where the Grimes sisters were seen in the queue about 9:30 p.m. getting popcorn. By 12 midnight, the sisters were reported missing after not returning home. The girls' disappearance launched one of the largest missing person cases in Chicago history. There were many reports of sightings, but nothing of hard evidence. It got to the point where the police even thought it could have been a classic case of two sisters running away from home, something their mothers said they just would never do. They had no money, they took no other clothes, and they even left their loved AM radio. On January 22nd, as ice and snow began to thaw, their new bodies were discovered beside the road, behind a guardrail. It's believed that the girls might have been dumped from a passing car. Barbara Grimes was found face down, laying on her left side with her legs slightly drawn up towards her body. Patricia was found face down on top of her sister. Autopsy confirmed that it's likely that the girls died not long after they watched the movies, due to last meals the girls ate was popcorn. However, the chief investigator disagreed, saying that the girls must have been alive on January the 7th, due to the thin layer of ice found on the bodies of the girls that indicated that they must have been alive until at least January the 7th, since only after that date would there have been enough snowfall to react with their warm bodies. There was no obvious cause of death. Their faces were damaged, but it's thought that this was caused by animals. Many suspects were called in for questioning, such as Edward Lee Bedwell, who even confessed to killing the young sisters. However, it was later shown that Edward was borderline mentally handicapped, and it said that he had been persuaded by the police to confess to the murders. He later withdrew his confession. He said in his confession that he and the girls were drinking and having hot dogs, and when they turned down their sexual advances, he killed them. Autopsies showed that the girls didn't even have alcohol in their systems, and didn't even eat hot dogs. Why did the police go to such lengths to get a fake confession? The case is still unsolved.
Number 2.
It was in 1976 when the citizens of Circleville began getting strange anonymous letters that confirmed that the author knew the darkest of secrets and had evil intentions to use those secrets for their own personal gain, even if that means death. Just imagine how frightening it would be to get letters containing information they didn't want no one to know. Who sent the letter? Why did they send the letter? These mysterious questions have been baffling detectives for decades, and what makes it even more puzzling is how many letters were sent. There were thousands of letters that were terrorizing the whole city. How did the person know so many dark secrets? In 1976, Mary Gillespie, a local bus driver, began to get letters accusing her of having an affair with a school official. The author of the letters told her that she needs to tell her husband of the affair. The author then sent threatening letters telling her that he or she is observing her house and that they know she has children. It wasn't long later that Ron, her husband, began to get letters telling him of his wife's affair. The Gillespies got so scared that they gathered all of their loved ones into their house to try and find out who was sending these letters. On August 1977, Ron got a phone call that got him so angry that he burst out of his house armed with a gun. He got into his car, and that's the last time anyone saw him alive. He was found dead in a car accident where he collided into a tree. Strangely, his gun had been fired, but it's still a mystery why it was fired. The officials said that this death was caused by alcohol, but his friends and family said that he was not a heavy drinker. That's when the sheriff himself began to get sinister letters in the same handwriting as all the other letters. The letter accused him of covering up the death of Ron Gillespie. Investigators tried to find out who phoned Ron, and what did the person on the phone say to him to get him so angry? Was it the Circleville author that was tormenting the whole city? Was the sheriff covering up the death, and if so, why? Ron's wife confirmed that she was having an affair. The letters were telling the truth. In 1983, Mary began to notice signs on her bus travels, notifying the world of her sordid life. She got so annoyed that she got out of the bus and went to pull the sign out of the ground. This is when she noticed that there was a string attached to the sign. When she followed the string, it then took her to a box. As she opened the box, a gun then pointed at her face. It was a booby trap, designed to kill her. Police examined the gun, and a former brother-in-law, Paul, got arrested. Paul was adamant he didn't try and kill Mary, but was put in prison for attempted murder. Now this just adds to the mystery. Paul himself began to receive letters in prison from the Circleville writer. The letter said, "Now when are you going to believe you aren't going to get out of there? I told you 2 years ago, when we set 'em up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all." Does the letter hint that there's more than one accomplice and that Paul was one of them? Was Paul just a target who got warned 2 years ago that he was going to get set up? If so, that's pretty damn chilling. Even when the TV show Unsolved Mysteries did an episode on the case, they received a postcard of the same handwriting to back off. The case still remains a mystery. Who do you believe will send in these letters?
Number 3.
12-year-old Rihanna Baru was last seen walking away from a Morvettville home on the morning of October 7th, 1992, during the school holidays. She was wearing purple shorts, a green t-shirt with the word hypercolour. She also had on white socks and white link sneakers. She was heading towards the shops to buy a Christmas card for her American pen pal, but she just seemed to vanish without a trace. 25 years later, and the parents are still looking for answers for the mystery of the disappearance of their daughter. They now believe their daughter has been murdered, and they want the case to be looked into again to try and find who killed her, or where she disappeared. They want answers. There's also $1 million reward to anyone that can provide information about the disappearance of Rihanna. Below I have left a link in the description. If there's any new information regarding this case, then please share it to us.
Number 4.
At first, the Chase Fault in Barbados looks like a perfectly normal tomb and a perfectly normal cemetery, but there's a widespread legend that mysteriously coffins are moving on their own. The coffins are made of lead and are heavy. Now let's tell you the legend that has become one of Barbados' most chilling and sinister mysteries. Surrounding the fault were 2-inch thick walls. Stopping you from getting inside the fault was a metal gate, and to get into that gate you had to move a blue slab of marble sealing that entrance. This was built like a fort to stop grave robbers from getting inside and stealing the coffins. Inside the vault were tombs that were made of lead that were so heavy you needed multiple men just to open them. Now let's get to the mystery. The body of Mrs. Goddard was buried in the vault in 1807, followed in 1808 by Thomas Chase, baby of the family, Mary Chase, and in 1812 Thomas's older daughter died. Some believe that she killed herself due to being abused by her father. Her father had a history where he was said to have been sadistic and evil to his own family and slaves. Now this is when things get quite bizarre. When the vault was opened in late 1812 to put Thomas Chase, the father of the children, in the vault, well, when they entered the vault, the caskets of the children were moved from their places. One coffin was tossed upside down. Now the panicked people asked how could someone do that to a casket that was so heavy. This puzzled the now distressed Chase family. At first they thought maybe it was grave robbers, but no valuables were ever taken. What was the motive? Anyway, the coffins were eventually put in place, and they added Thomas Chase coffin to the vault, and the vault was once again sealed. 4 years later, Charles died and the mystery continued, as when the vault was opened once again, the coffins inside the vault were all over the place. Even the coffin of Thomas Chase, that was said to have weighed over 240 pounds, was moved. Word went round the island of this mystery. 52 days later, people checked the vault from the outside to check if everything was okay, and it all seemed normal. The seal was watertight. There's no signs of anyone entering the vault, let alone once again when they entered the vault, the coffins were moved. This time though, one of the coffins was damaged. The coffin of Goddard sustained so much damage from the impact of another coffin that a skeleton was sticking out. Who was doing this and why? How were there no signs of entry, let alone how were they able to move such heavy coffins with so much force to damage another coffin? These were the kind of questions that were baffling the people of Barbados. The Barbados Governor Lord Combermere decided that an investigation needs to take place. The vault was made to be near impossible to get in from the outside. He then ordered sand to be put on the floor so there would be footprints if any person or animal was able to enter the vault. 2 years later, the vault was opened. The coffins once again must have been flung like toys. They were everywhere. There are no prints on the sand. No one could have entered the vault. The Chase family by this time was so disturbed that they moved all of the coffins out of the vault and buried them in the cemetery. The case is still unsolved.
Number 5.
On March 31st, 2005, an elderly man was shopping in a store in San Angelo, Texas, when he suddenly collapsed. He was then taken to hospital but sadly died shortly afterwards. He most likely died of a heart attack. Now this is when the mystery begins. The hospital staff tried to contact a local next of kin of the man that passed away, but this proved to be impossible. The confused staff found that the man carried 5 different identifications. Why would an elderly man need so many identifications? Who was he? Was he hiding from someone? If that wasn't puzzling enough, then the case got even more mysterious when they found that the man also managed to damage the center of his fingers, making it impossible to get his fingerprints. The man for some reason did not want his identity to be known. Some theories suggest that he's a serial killer. Some believe he could have been a spy. No one knows. But for him to have taken such lengths to keep his identity unknown, there must have been a reason for doing that. The police then thought it would be a good idea to do a dental test to try and identify him that way, but he also had no natural teeth. It seemed like he thought of everything. Due to the mysterious tone of this case, the media loved it. They showed pictures of him to see if anyone knew the man. Rumours circulated that the man was Whitey Bulger, a former Boston mob boss, one of the most wanted men on the FBI list. The only problem is Whitey Bulger is still alive. Some believe he could be the Zodiac killer, while some believe he could have been the Nazi that fled. To be honest, no one knows who he is, it's just guesswork. What surprised me is that nobody even recognised him when pictures were put in the paper. You would think that someone would have met a man that has lived for 70 to 90 years, but obviously no one recognised him. One thing for certain is that mysterious cases like this most certainly get you thinking. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. We'd love to read your thoughts on these cases. Thank you for watching.